You thought you were holding it together, but something shifted. Maybe it was one phone call, one message you didn't expect, or just a quiet realization that things aren't as stable as they used to feel. And now your mind won't slow down. Even when everything around you is quiet, there's this tension underneath it all. Like something could fall apart at any moment, and you're the only one trying to keep it from happening. You still show up, you still function, but inside, it feels different. There's a subtle fear you haven't said out loud, that if one more thing goes wrong, you might not have the strength to handle it. And that thought alone has been exhausting you more than anything else. Because crisis doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's internal, slow, and deeply unsettling, like standing on ground that used to feel solid but now feels like it's quietly shifting beneath your feet, and you don't know when or if it will stop. And maybe part of you has been asking, how did I get here? Why does everything feel so fragile right now? Why do I feel this overwhelmed? Even when I'm trying to stay strong. Take a breath. What you're feeling is real, not exaggerated, not weak, just human. And here's something most people don't realize. Storms don't actually create instability. They reveal it. They don't build your foundation. They expose what it's been built on all along. And that can feel uncomfortable, because it forces you to see what you've been leaning on, what you thought would hold you, and what might not be strong enough anymore. But this moment right here, this discomfort, this pressure, is not here to break you. It's here to show you something deeper, something more stable, something that doesn't collapse when everything else does. So before we try to fix anything, before we rush to solve or control, just stay here for a second. You're not as alone in this as it feels, and something inside you is still standing, even now. If this is where you are right now, type this quietly, even if it's just for yourself. I'm still here, and I'm ready to stand again. We're gonna walk through this, step by step. It's not just the storm, it's what the storm reveals. Because two people can face the same situation, the same pressure, the same uncertainty, and experience it completely differently. One feels like they're falling apart. The other somehow stays steady. Not because their life is easier, not because they're stronger, but because of what they've been standing on. Maybe, without realizing it, you've been building on things that shift. Other people's approval, predictable outcomes, plans that made you feel safe because they felt controllable. And for a while, it worked. It gave you a sense of peace, a sense of direction, something to lean on when life felt uncertain. But now, those things feel unstable. People change. Situations turn. What once felt certain suddenly isn't, and it leaves you feeling exposed, like you've lost your footing in a way you didn't see coming, and now you're trying to regain balance while everything still feels like it's moving beneath you. This is the difference between sand and rock. Sand isn't always obvious, can look solid at first, can even feel strong until pressure comes. And when it does, it shifts, quietly at first, then all at once. But rock is different. It doesn't mean life becomes easier. It doesn't mean storms stop coming. It means when everything shakes, you don't. Not because you have all the answers, but because your foundation isn't based on answers. It's based on something deeper, something unchanging. And maybe right now, you're starting to realize that some of what you trusted to hold you can't anymore. That realization can feel heavy, almost disappointing, but it's also a turning point, because you're not losing your foundation, you're being invited to rebuild it, not on fear, not on control, not on things that can disappear overnight, but on something steady, something that doesn't depend on circumstances. God isn't waiting for you to be stronger. He's offering to be your strength, right here, in the middle of this. So if part of you feels like everything is shifting, that's not the end. It's the moment you stop standing on what moves and start anchoring into what doesn't. If you're ready for that shift, type this slowly. My foundation is changing, and I choose what is steady. We're going deeper next. Your thoughts have been getting louder, haven't they? Not just random thoughts, specific ones. The kind that replay worst-case scenarios on a loop. What if this doesn't work out? What if I lose more than I can recover? What if this is only the beginning? And the hard part is, those thoughts feel logical. They're based on what you can see, on facts, numbers, outcomes that don't look promising. So your mind tries to protect you. It scans for control. It searches for solutions. But instead, it just gets more overwhelmed. Because facts can inform you, but they can't always hold you together. And right now, you don't just need information. You need something that steadies you. This is where truth becomes different from facts. Facts say, this is what's happening. Truth says, this is not the end of your story. Facts say, you don't have enough right now. Truth says, you are still being carried. Even here, facts can feel heavy, immediate, almost suffocating. But truth is deeper. It doesn't shout. It doesn't panic. It stays. Even when everything else feels uncertain, truth remains quiet but unshaken, like something beneath the surface that hasn't moved at all, even if everything above it feels unstable. And this is where your mind needs a new anchor. Not more overthinking, not more analysis. Alignment, gently bringing your thoughts back to something steady. You don't have to deny what's happening. You don't have to pretend everything is fine. But you also don't have to let fear have the final word. Because God is not absent in your situation. He's present, even in the parts that don't make sense yet. Even in the silence. Even in the waiting. So when your mind starts spiraling, you don't fight it harshly. You guide it back, again and again, not to control everything, but to stay grounded in something deeper than what you see. This is how peace begins to return, not all at once, but moment by moment, thought by thought, until something inside you starts to settle. And you realize that even though the situation hasn't changed yet, your inner world is no longer collapsing with it, and that quiet stability is where your breakthrough begins. If your thoughts have been overwhelming you, type this gently. I return to truth, even when I feel afraid. We're about to shift something powerful next. This might feel unnatural at first, because everything in you wants to wait. Wait until things improve. Wait until there's evidence. Something you can point to and say, okay, now I can breathe. But what if peace doesn't come after the breakthrough? What if it comes before it? There's a quiet power in choosing how you respond before anything changes. Not pretending, not forcing emotion, but gently deciding where your focus will rest. Because when everything feels uncertain, your attention becomes your anchor. And most people don't realize this. What you consistently focus on begins to shape what you feel. And what you feel begins to shape how you stand. So if your focus stays on fear, your body follows. Tension, restlessness, that constant feeling of bracing for impact. But when you shift, even slightly toward gratitude, toward trust, toward something steady, your system begins to soften. This is where praise comes in, not as performance, not as denial, but as alignment, a quiet, intentional return to what is still good, still present, still holding you together, even when parts of your life feel uncertain and unfinished. Praise says, I see what's happening, but I also see beyond it. It opens something, not always in your circumstances right away, but inside you, space, breath, perspective, and from that place, strength begins to rebuild. You don't have to feel strong to start. You don't have to feel confident. You just have to be willing. Even a small shift matters. A single sentence, a quiet acknowledgement. God, I don't understand this, but I trust you're here. That's enough, because praise isn't about volume. It's about direction. And when your heart starts turning, even gently toward trust instead of fear, something begins to move internally in a way you can't always explain. But you can feel it, like tension loosening, like space opening, like the beginning of peace returning. This is where breakthrough begins. Not when everything changes outside, but when something shifts within. If you're ready to make that shift, even just a little, type this slowly. I choose praise, even before I see the outcome. We're going to make this practical next. You don't need a perfect system. You just need something you can return to. Because when everything feels scattered, your mind doesn't need more complexity. It needs a place to land. So let's make this simple, not overwhelming, not something you have to remember perfectly, just a gentle rhythm you can come back to when things feel too heavy. First, pause, just for a moment, not to fix anything, not to figure everything out, just to interrupt the spiral. Take a slow breath in and let it out a little longer than you normally would. That alone begins to shift something. Second, name what you're feeling, not the polished version, the real one. God, I feel anxious. I feel tired. I feel like I'm losing control. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to clean it up, because honesty is where connection begins. Third, release what you can't carry. This part matters, because you've been holding more than you were meant to hold, trying to think your way through everything, trying to prepare for every outcome. And it's exhausting. So, gently say it, I can't carry this on my own. Let that be enough. You don't need a full plan right now. You don't need to solve tomorrow. Just loosen your grip on what was never yours to control. Fourth, receive. This might feel unfamiliar, but after you release, there's space. And in that space, you allow something back in. Peace, support, presence. Even if you don't feel it strongly yet, just be open to it. God, I receive your peace right now. You're not forcing a feeling. You're allowing a shift. And finally, anchor. Choose one simple truth to hold on to. Not 10, just one. Something steady. Something you can return to when your thoughts start drifting again. Maybe it's, I'm not alone. I'm being guided. I will get through this. Let that become your anchor. Something you repeat quietly, consistently, throughout your day. Because grounding isn't about escaping your situation. It's about staying steady within it, learning how to return to yourself and to God again and again, even when everything around you still feels uncertain. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Not perfect, but real. something you can actually use when you need it most. If this is something you're choosing to practice, type this gently. I return to peace, one moment at a time. We're going to step into something deeper together next. You don't have to hold this alone, even if it feels like you have been. Even if part of you has learned to stay quiet, to carry things internally, to keep going without really letting anyone see how heavy it's been. You can soften here, just for a moment. If it feels okay, close your eyes, or just let your focus settle inward, and we'll move through this together. God, I don't have perfect words right now. I don't even fully understand everything I'm feeling. But you see it. You see the tension I've been carrying, the thoughts that won't slow down, the quiet fear I haven't said out loud. And I don't want to hold all of this by myself anymore. So I bring it to you as it is. Not filtered, not cleaned up, just real. There are parts of my life right now that feel unstable. Things I thought I could rely on that don't feel certain anymore. And it's been shaking me more than I expected. I've been trying to stay strong, trying to keep everything together. But underneath that, I feel tired. So right now, I release what I've been gripping so tightly. The need to control every outcome. The pressure to have all the answers. The fear of what might happen next. I let it go into your hands. God, meet me here. Not when everything is fixed. Not when I feel stronger. But right here, in the middle of this. Be my stability when I feel unsteady. Be my clarity when my thoughts feel loud. Be my peace when everything inside me feels tense. Remind me that I'm not alone in this. Even if I can't see the way forward yet, even if things still feel uncertain, you are still here, still present, still working, still holding me together in ways I don't fully understand yet. And I receive that now, not perfectly, but openly. Your peace, even if it's quiet at first. Your strength, even if it feels small. Let it grow in me. Let it settle my thoughts. Let it steady my heart. Let it bring me back to a place of alignment where I'm not reacting out of fear, but responding from something deeper, something grounded, something held. And even before I see change, even before the situation shifts, I choose to trust you, not because everything makes sense, but because you are steady, even when life isn't. So I stand, not in my own strength, but in yours, and I take this next step with you. Amen. Stay here for a second. Notice your breathing. Notice your body. Something has softened, even just a little. That matters. If you prayed that with me, type this quietly. I am not carrying this alone anymore. We're going to bring this into your day next. You don't have to figure out your whole life today, just this moment, just the next step. Because when everything feels uncertain, your mind wants to jump ahead, to solve tomorrow, to predict outcomes that haven't even happened yet. And that's where the overwhelm starts to grow. So come back. Here. Today is enough. You don't need to carry every possibility. You don't need to prepare for every scenario. You just need to stay grounded, right where your feet are. One decision at a time. One breath at a time. And if things start to feel heavy again, they might. That doesn't mean you're failing. It just means you're human. So when it happens, pause. Return to what you practiced. Breathe. Be honest. Release. Receive. Anchor. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to come back. Again. And again. That's how stability is built. Not in one big moment, but in small, quiet returns throughout your day, where you gently choose peace over panic, trust over control, and presence over spiraling thoughts. And here's something important to hold on to. You are not as fragile as this moment makes you feel. There is strength in you, not loud, not forced, but steady. And God is with you in this, not watching from a distance, but walking with you through each part of your day, even the ordinary moments, even the ones that feel uncertain, offering a quiet kind of support that doesn't always remove the storm, but helps you stand within it. So today, you don't collapse, you don't run, you stand. Even if it's quiet, even if it's slow, you stand. If you're choosing that, type this with intention. I will stand firm, just for today. And if this gave you even a little peace, stay connected. There's more we're building together. Before you move on, notice this. You're still here. Something in you didn't shut down, didn't give up, didn't walk away. Even after everything you've been carrying, you stayed. That matters more than you think. Because real strength doesn't always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like staying present when it would be easier to escape. And something subtle has already started shifting. Maybe your breathing feels a little slower. Maybe your thoughts aren't as loud as they were before. Or maybe nothing dramatic changed, but there's just a little more space inside you now. That's how this begins. Not with a sudden miracle on the outside, but with a quiet realignment on the inside. And from that place, things start to open. Clarity, direction, even unexpected favor. Not all at once, but in ways you'll start to recognize. Because when your foundation shifts, your response shifts. And when your response shifts, your experience begins to change too. So don't rush past this moment. Let it settle. Let it root. Because what you're building right now is something that will hold you even when the next storm comes. If something in you feels even slightly different, type this: something is shifting in me. And if you want to keep building this kind of peace, you can stay connected here. There's more support waiting for you. Don't lose this feeling, not because it's dramatic, but because it's real. What you experienced here wasn't noise. It wasn't distraction. It was alignment. And alignment needs consistency. Just like anything you want to grow, peace grows when you return to it. So don't wait for the next crisis. Don't wait until things feel overwhelming again. Come back, even on normal days, even when nothing feels wrong, because that's how your foundation becomes unshakable. Not in reaction to storms, but in the quiet, daily choice to stay connected to what grounds you, strengthens you, and reminds you that you're not walking through life alone. And if this moment helped you, even a little, stay close to this space. Subscribe, so you have somewhere to return when your thoughts get loud again. There's more here for you. More peace, more clarity, more breakthrough waiting to unfold step by step. And if you want something practical to carry with you, there's a simple grounding guide linked below. You can use it anytime your mind starts to spiral. You're not starting over. You're building stronger. And this time, you're not building alone.